Imagine if every lyric you wrote instantly grabbed the listener's attention. If your words could paint vivid pictures, spark emotions, and turn everyday moments into unforgettable stories. When it comes to lyric writing, I've found it takes more than just the practice of writing lyrics to make meaningful gains and develop your skills. Today, we're going to break the barriers holding your lyrics back and unlock the secrets to writing powerful, magnetic lines that truly connect. So let's level up your lyrics. Hey songwriters, my name's Celine, and if we haven't met yet, I've been writing songs now for 30 years. And I've learned some amazing techniques and habits over the years that have been able to transform my lyrics into impactful words. And today I'm going to share these insights with you so you can take your lyrics from ordinary to extraordinary. Let's get into it. The first one is you should be writing every single day, even if just for 15 minutes. It builds a creative habit that lets your ideas flow. Think of it as a daily workout for your brain. The more you practice, the easier it becomes to turn your ideas into compelling lyrics for your songs. I like to set aside a dedicated time and place, free from distractions, where I can write even when I'm not inspired to. It allows me the freedom to jot down even the roughest ideas. And over time, in these daily activities, I've found some reoccurring themes that I probably never would have picked up on to be able to take into new songs. And one of the things when it comes to writing daily, it doesn't mean you have to be writing songs daily. Now give me a second, because a lot of people struggle with this concept, but it's especially true for lyric writing. Because you can utilise proven techniques, short exercises, and focus drills to maximise a short break in your busy day. Now I'm not going to lie, when this was suggested for me to try a few years ago now, I was totally not on board. And I definitely wasn't sold on the idea that it was going to help my lyric writing if I wasn't actually writing lyrics. At this point, I was convinced that to get better at lyric writing, I had to write more lyrics. And that's not a wrong assumption from me. But what I didn't appreciate is just how extraordinarily good these short exercises and focus drills can be for my lyrics. But how wrong was I? I'm not ashamed to hold my hands up now and say I was wrong. Writing daily has improved my lyric writing exponentially. Just the practice of writing every single day has made leaps and bounds in my own songwriting process and habits. But the exercises that I've been doing on a daily basis have catapulted my lyric writing, my use of words and language. And that daily writing habit has cemented the power of writing on a consistent basis, which has enabled me to write more songs. Now, I can hear you all sitting there saying, what the heck do you write about? Well, let's get to that. Sense writing is a type of journaling, and it's one of the most common ways that I now do my own journaling. It can sometimes be known as object writing or morning pages, depending on where you learn about it, but it's basically the same thing. We're using sensory language to describe an object or scenario to allow us to write on a consistent daily basis. And what it teaches us is that instead of just describing emotions or events, you kind of tap into the sensory elements of what's happening in that situation. And it invites the listeners to almost experience them with you. But the beauty is you can use it however you want. Sometimes I have an actual idea for a song and I use that as the kind of starting point for my sense writing. Whereas other times I create a random scenario using a who, where and when to start my journaling process. And what this who, where and when does, it creates me a scenario and a character which I then write about, invoking as many of the senses as possible. And using descriptive language that taps into all the senses. For example, I could describe the texture of a fading light, the sound of the rain on a car roof, or the smell of fresh coffee as you open the door to the coffee shop. And by focusing on those sensory details, you create an immersive lyric. It allows me to create vivid emotions and invoke powerful memories in my lyrics. This approach not only enriches my lyrics, but it also allows a deeper, more meaningful connection with the listener. It's tapping into their subconscious somewhat, I think, and it enables them to remember scenarios or empathise with scenarios on a sensory level. And we all know that songs always land better when you can create a strong connection with the listener. So if you've never done this kind of writing before, let's create you a scenario that you can use to give it a go. So we want a who, a where, and a when. So our who is going to be a photographer. Our where is going to be a busy marketplace. And our when is going to be at sunrise. So write it down. A photographer in a busy marketplace at sunrise. Use it to inspire a sense writing session of your own and see how many other senses you can write about from this scene. And just so that you can see how I would approach it, I'm going to put something up on the screen now of what I would write, just a short paragraph in sensory language using this scenario. So as we just discussed, great lyrics often tap into strong emotions in our listeners. And there are many universal themes that people will share, such as love, loss, hope. And when you focus on these universal themes, it creates a mirror for the listener to reflect on their own situations. But here's the thing, universal does not mean generic. Instead, think of it as using familiar themes where you can paint your unique perspective. Creating a balance between relatability and originality can help your lyrics strike a chord with your listeners. I like to think of this as digging a deep but narrow hole, rather than a shallow, wide hole. An example of a shallow, wide hole might be the emotion love. There's a lot of different aspects in what love can mean to various different people, which makes it universal but also vague. But if we went deep and narrow, we could harness that emotion of love and attach it to the birth of a baby and the love you feel for your newborn child. Now, if there's some people that have never actually had a child themselves, I would hazard a guess that they know someone who has or can empathise with the people that do because of the universal theme. And going deep and narrow instead of shallow and wide gets down to the deeper emotions, and the connections that those emotions can have are exponentially better. We could look at the lyrics of Billie Eilish songs, and she often has overarching themes of self-reflection, mental health, and identity. But when you listen to her lyrics, she goes a lot deeper than just those overarching topics. She dives into the emotions such as anxiety and loneliness, offering a raw and vulnerable personal experience that listeners can relate to, even if they don't have those exact emotions or experiences themselves. One of the things I like to do with my lyrics is to not be obvious. And when I say not obvious, I mean stop spelling it out for the listener. Sometimes the most memorable lyrics are the ones that hint at something rather than being right on the nose. And you can do that by considering using subtle language, double entendres, or metaphors that can encourage listeners to explore multiple layers of interpretation to your lyrics. One of the best examples I can think of for this is the phrase, "I miss you." It leaves nothing to interpretation and has very little emotional connection. Whereas if you would be able to rephrase that to, "I wish you would call more," that suggests missing another person because they're not around a lot, or they may even be far away. Or perhaps the line, "I still see your eyes when I close mine." That suggests to me a level of longing that far outweighs "I miss you." It suggests loss, heartbreak, and possibly even regret for a situation. And not only that, I want to know more. I am drawn into this situation. And this is a clever technique that really enriches the listener's experience when listening to your lyrics. Another way you can make a huge impact in not being obvious is just to change a couple of words in the line. So instead of drinking your coffee, you could sip your cappuccino. Instead of walking in the morning, how about a stroll at sunrise? Sometimes taking the less obvious route can be more specific, yet still harness those outer emotions. And how much more visual do you think those alternatives were? Coincidence? One really good way to improve your lyrics is to write them in a way that feels conversational. Using natural, relaxed language can reflect your authentic voice and make it that your lyrics are like a conversation with a friend. It can help break down barriers and make your song more accessible as well. Imagine you're telling a story over coffee with one of your friends. This is the kind of vibe I try and bring into my writing on occasion, is to really break down those barriers and create a quite vulnerable conversational lyric. And the way you can do that, similarly to what we discussed in the last point, was, say for example you were to write, "It was a particularly enjoyable way to spend the weekend." Now, that might fit with your meter and rhyme well with your previous lines, but would anyone actually say it like that? Maybe in a really formal setting, but I highly doubt it, to be honest. What you probably might say is something like, "I had the best weekend," or "Oh my God, what an amazing way to end the week." When you write conversationally, you allow your personality to shine through as well in your lyrics. And an artist and songwriter that I really admire who really does this well is Phoebe Bridgers. And she has a very raw and conversational style in her lyrics, and especially in her song Motion Sickness. She writes, "Hey, why do you sing with an English accent? I guess it's too late to change it now. You know I'm never going to let you have it, but I will try to drown you out." And this sounds like she's talking directly to that person in conversation. And it makes that connection that the listener can relate to. So there we have it. And if you're going to be trying any of these tips, you'll be leveling up your lyrics in no time at all. These techniques are just some of the tools that I use in my songcraft to work on my lyrics. And there are far more videos I can be making with lots more of these kind of tips. So make sure you subscribe to learn more. And if you're ready for a transformational challenge, my new book, Level Up Your Lyrics, a 30-day challenge, is available on your local Amazon store now. Oh, and before I go, this video here is about all the different ways I've battled and overcome writer's block, and a lot of people have been watching that one, so I think you should too. I'll see you in the next one.